why did you leave CPS? Or what was your primary reason for leaving?
You know, I was a special investigator for Child Protective Services in Texas from February 2012 to March 2013. You know, I already was a libertarian whenever I joined, but I kind of bought into the idea that Child Protective Services would be the one agency where I could actually help children. Though they were a branch of the government, you know, they'd be the ones who would actually be helping. And I found that I was wrong on every single level. What I saw was not just, you know, normal bureaucratic corruption that's reported in the local news, but an entire system that was kind of built to fail. The power the investigators had and CPS held, which was kind of the power over every single child, and the ability to be able to destroy lives, is one that wasn't really handled carefully. I didn't quit because, as some people in the agency stated, I didn't have the toughness for it, or, you know, this takes special kind of people. I quit because what we were doing was not helping people, but instead destroying lives. You know, I came to think of it in the same way Judge Brian Lindsay explained it, which was there is no system ever devised by mankind that is guaranteed to rip husband and wife or father, mother and child apart so bitterly than our present family court system.
Right. Did you have an instance that really captured you? Because I do remember when you first started working, you were telling me about some pretty intense scenes that I just I mean, personally, I don't think I really could have handled that well. That you seem to handle really well, you know. And
yeah.
So, I mean, was there a moment, or was there something, or was there finally a build up that made you realize this isn't what I think it is?
Well, I mean, I guess the you know, my first case was very much my best case, in the sense that it seemed like a clear-cut kind of situation where there was a drug bust at a home, and there were children there who were being forced to take a shit around the areas where the drugs were in order to prevent people from coming in to steal them. There was no running electricity in the house, but the drug dealers themselves actually owned like a Hummer and a number of nice cars. And there was a mother there who we were pretty sure was on drugs. The mother cried and screamed, and the children cried and screamed, and neighbors came out saying, please don't take away these children, please don't send them to a foster home. Supposedly, we couldn't find any placement besides a foster home, which I still doubt even now. And it seemed like one of the situations where, oh, look, we're actually helping. But, you know, in foster homes, you have a way higher chance of being raped, molested, abused, and killed than you do in an actual home where you're already being abused. And that one case was the best case I ever had. From there, it was cases where, you know, there was maybe a father who was smoking marijuana 2 weeks ago, and then you end up having to set him up in a situation to where you're going to end up traumatizing the kids because you're going to tell the dad he has to leave the home. There was one case where there was a removal involving some children who were hanging out outside, and Child Protective Services found that to be improper, so the children will have to be removed from that case and thrown into a foster home. It was one case after another where what we were really doing was enforcing the war on drugs more than enforcing the war on child abuse, because the vast majority of cases we had were not for physical abuse, but they were supposed neglect or just cases that were completely made up, and then we'd have to ask these children questions regarding them being molested, abused, neglected, and emotionally threatened in certain cases where it wasn't even occurring whatsoever, really fucking up these kids. And we did everything through brute force rather than any kind of rational means, which is, I guess, to be expected from any kind of government organization.
Right. Were there any cases where you did encounter actual abuse?
Absolutely. But what I found was that the situations we then removed them from weren't much more helpful. And, you know, especially when we're talking about foster homes, you know, when you're talking about Child Protective Services, you have to think about incentives, because every single agency runs off of incentives, and in the family law system you have an incentive actually to remove children and to find alleged child abuse, because without child abuse no one continues to get paid. That's how you get funded. Now, with foster homes, the reason why they have an incentive for abuse is a different kind of abuse, which is the war kind of on children's minds. A foster home is funded, or at least a foster parent is given more money for every single disability that a child has. Be prepared before you go in. It's not the same as getting pulled over where you don't talk to the cop whatsoever. This is a case where it's all flimmy-flammy. Very few people actually pay attention to the many of the laws, and most importantly, CPS investigators hope you don't know your rights. And they don't ever explain to the investigators to remind parents of their rights. It's easier to abuse the situation, although in their cases they just simply state it's easier on them if you don't know your rights. It's corrupt from the very get-go.
Well, easier on them referring to the children who are in a particular circumstance, or easier on the parent who is being...
Well, according to them, they're the
interrogated.
child abuse warriors. So to them, anything that's good for CPS is good for children whatsoever.
Okay.
Anyway, I would like to remind everyone just to make sure you check out cps.com for any further information in regards to this. Taryn, I know we wanted to go in more about kind of free market solutions for something like Child Protective Services, but for now I think it's important to just kind of get this information. So make sure everyone to check out fightcps.com. Check out our prior podcast on Child Protective Services and the true incentives behind it. And if you need any kind of help and you can't get it through fightcps.com, email us at therenegadevariety@gmail.com. If this seems crass, I understand, but make sure to check us out on Facebook as well and on therenegadevariety.com if you need any more information. Do not have any concerns about contacting me. Contact me as soon as possible. If you're a libertarian and you need help with any of this kind of CPS stuff, let me know. But be upfront, don't lie, and if you're the kind of person who's going to justify hitting children before you message me, don't bother messaging me whatsoever.